Right now, somewhere, a smart, hardworking person is about to sign up for a university degree that will leave them poorer than if they had never gone at all. Not because they'll fail, not because they're lazy, but because on the actual numbers, nearly 1 in 4 degrees don't pay off. And here's the part that makes no sense at first. On average, a degree is still one of the best financial decisions you can make. In the United States, the typical bachelor's degree is worth around $2.8 million in lifetime earnings. In Britain, most graduates still end up ahead of those who didn't go. So how can both things be true at once? The average degree pays off, and a quarter of them lose money. That contradiction is the single most important thing nobody explains before you commit 3 or 4 years of your life and tens of thousands in debt. So before you sign anything, do this, because once you see how the math actually works, you can never unsee it. To understand how a degree can possibly lose money, you have to look at what it truly costs. And almost everyone only sees half the price. The half everyone sees is tuition. The fees, the loans, the number on the letter. That part is obvious, so that's the part people argue about. But there's a second cost, and it's usually the bigger one. It's invisible. While you spend 3 or 4 years studying, someone your age who skipped university is working. They're earning a wage, saving a little, maybe getting their first promotion. Every one of those years you spend in a lecture hall is a year you are not earning a full-time income. Economists call that an opportunity cost, the money you gave up by choosing one path over another. This is why even a degree with cheap or free tuition can still lose money. The tuition might be zero, but those years of lost earnings never are. Stack that on top of the debt itself, around $38,000 for the average American graduate, around £53,000 in England, and the real bill for a degree is far higher than the sticker price. So if the true cost is that high, why does everyone keep repeating that comforting average? A degree is worth millions. Because the average is technically true and almost completely useless to you. Here's why. Imagine I told you the average temperature this year was a pleasant, mild 20 degrees. Sounds comfortable, until you learn half the year was freezing and half was scorching. The average described a year nobody actually lived through. A single degree average does the same thing. It quietly blends a petroleum engineer with a fine arts graduate and hands you a number that describes neither of them. Look at how wide that gap really is. According to Georgetown University, the difference between the highest paying and the lowest paying college majors is about $3.4 million over a lifetime. Read that again. The gap between majors is bigger than the entire advantage of having a degree at all. Which means the choice you make inside university, what you actually study, can matter more than the choice to go in the first place. And that is the whole trap. You've been reassured by an average that was never about you. So what decides which side of that average you actually land on? 2 things. And the first, the biggest one by far, is what you study. Field of study swamps almost everything else. In the American data, roughly 4 out of 5 engineering programs return more than $500,000 over a career. For psychology programs, that's true of about 1%. Same word on the certificate, bachelor's degree, wildly different outcomes. And this isn't just an American quirk. In the United Kingdom, the Institute for Fiscal Studies found the same pattern in a completely different system. Men who study medicine or economics earn around £500,000 more over their lives. Men who study creative arts or social care, on average, see a negative return. They end up worse off than if they'd skipped university entirely. Across all subjects, about 1 in 5 women and nearly 1 in 3 men can expect that negative return. In fact, about 1 in 4 people with a 2-year associate degree out-earns the average worker holding a full 4-year bachelor's, because the field you pick beats the level you reach. And it isn't only the subject, it's where you study it. In the American data, more than half of the programs at for-profit colleges, around 55%, leave graduates worse off, compared with roughly a quarter at public universities. Same degree title, very different odds. 2 countries, 2 funding systems, 1 universal rule. It is not graduate versus non-graduate that decides your future. It's which door you walk through once you're inside. The second thing that decides your outcome is one almost nobody prices in: finishing. A degree only pays if you actually complete it, and completing is far from guaranteed. In the United States, only about 61% of students finish a bachelor's degree within 6 years. That means nearly 4 in 10 don't finish on time, and many never do. Now think about what that does to the math. If you borrow money, start a degree, and then leave without finishing, you get the worst of every world. You carry the debt, you lost the years, but you never get the diploma that was supposed to make it all worth it. The data is brutally clear on this. People who borrow and don't graduate are the single worst-off group of all. Worse than graduates, and worse than people who never enrolled. They still carry the student debt for a qualification they never received. So when you weigh a degree, the odds that you personally will cross the finish line aren't a footnote. They're part of the price. Which raises the real question hiding underneath all of this. Worth it? Compared to what? Because worth it is meaningless on its own. A degree isn't competing against doing nothing. It's competing against the best thing you could do instead. And that alternative is more real than it used to be. Take the skilled trades. In the U.S., electricians earn a median of around $62,000 a year, plumbers around $63,000, and crucially, many start earning while they train, with little or no debt. The typical new graduate actually starts a little higher, on average around $66,000. But they start those 4 years later, and often tens of thousands of dollars in debt. So the tradesperson's real edge isn't the paycheck. It's the 3 or 4 year head start on earning, saving, and compounding, with no loans to climb out of first. A head start that can leave them well over $100,000 ahead by the time both turn 30. This doesn't mean trades beat degrees. For many people, a degree still wins by a mile. It means you have to measure your degree against a real alternative, not against zero. So here is the actual thing to do before you commit. 4 steps. You can do the first 3 tonight. Step 1. Look up your specific program. Not the national average, your subject at your institution. In the U.S., the government's free College Scorecard shows what graduates of that exact program actually earn. In the UK, the Discover Uni website does the same. This information used to be hidden. Now it's a 2-minute search. Step 2. Do the honest math. Take that expected salary, subtract what you'd probably earn without the degree, and then subtract the full cost, tuition, plus those 3 or 4 years of lost earnings, plus interest. If the gap that's left doesn't clearly beat that cost, the degree is a bad investment on paper, no matter how it feels. Step 3. Check the completion rate. Both of those tools show how many students actually finish. A program most people don't complete is a debt risk wearing the costume of an investment. And Step 4. Run the exact same math on your Plan B, the apprenticeship, the trade, the cheaper local option, working while you study online. Whatever your real alternative is, hold it to the same test. Because in the end, university was never a scam, and it was never a guarantee. It's an investment, and like any investment, it only pays off for the person who checks the numbers before they buy, not the one who finds out 4 years too late. So here's my question for you. Have you actually looked up what your program pays? Or are you about to bet 4 years of your life on an average that was never about you? Go run the numbers and tell me what you find in the comments.